when we had a strike where people survived, we captured them and instantly gave them back to their original country, and their home country just let them go. If it is the case that these people were drug trafficking, we are presented with two options: prosecute them ourselves on our own terms, or give them back. If we're going to prosecute them ourselves, we would have to show evidence in a court of law. Well, if we don't have any evidence, what are we going to do? That's not going to work. So we give them back to their country. Now, there's two ways that could go. Either the country could be super duper duper corrupt, and they could be okay with drug trafficking, and they could let them go, or it could be the case that there really is no evidence because they actually just weren't doing anything wrong, and so their country lets them go. Intuitively, you're going to want to lean into that first option of, well, the country's just ultra corrupt and they're going to let them go no matter what they were doing. If that's the case, we would know that, correct? The fact that your intuitions told you that so quickly, you were like, yes, that one. Well, if you can intuit that so quickly, so can our fucking government. And if we want these people punished, if we want them to stop, why the fuck would we ever turn them back over to their country knowing full well they're going to get insta-let go?
I'm not sure what the legal grounds of us being able to hold them essentially hostage in our country is.
Well, we wouldn't be holding them hostage. We'd be trying them. They would go on trial for crimes. But the problem is you have to prove crimes.
But it's crimes being done in international waters. Again, I don't know what the legal grounds are for us to prosecute them in our country if it's in international waters.
If they're trafficking drugs into our country, we charge them for drug trafficking, 100%.
Two things have to be proven there. One, that first, that there's drugs on the boat, and second, that they were going to traffic them into our country.
So you've landed exactly on it. This is the fundamental question. If you cannot prove that in a court of law, if you're so insecure about your case and your evidence that you have, that you're willing to turn them back over to a country you know will let them go because you know you cannot prove at all in a court that they were trafficking drugs at all or to our country, then why the f would it ever be okay to blow them up?
Yeah, well, I'm not cool with videotaping the people getting bombed. And a ship. Rubs me the wrong way. Rubs me the wrong way with the Epstein files. And then him gaslighting all of us that there are no files, and then months later saying, actually, you know what? We are going to release the files. What the hell is that?
Wait, you seem reasonable enough to where I feel like I can start naming a bunch of Trump things, and you'd be like, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. How do you feel? What do you feel about some of the corruption related stuff? What do you think about him having just the president of the U.S. Take Trump out of it. Think of it more in broader terms. What do you think of the president having their own crypto coin that they own that motherfuckers can just dump money? Yeah, it's bad, right? What do you think? What about the Qatari jet thing?
No. Him being gifted that jet, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of these things where I could just go down the list, and you seem reasonable enough where you're just nah, bad, but none of that changes your view on him.
Of course it changes my view. The Epstein gaslighting is the biggest thing that changed my view on him. For me,
there's something interesting there. It wasn't the Epstein thing the Epstein thing didn't change my view on him at all because I already thought he was a terrible person. What it did is it changed my view on the Epstein situation writ large, where I would have said previously, and I did say, you can, there's plenty of videos on my YouTube channel, plenty of past streams where I've said exactly this, of people would bring up the Epstein stuff, and I'm like, I don't think there's going to be anything there. If those files ever do come out, it's going to be a whole bunch of fucking nothing, and we're all going to be disappointed as shit. But then he just started hiding the fuck out of them, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, maybe I was wrong, because I just feel like you wouldn't do this if there was nothing there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It didn't change my opinion on him. I already thought he was a bad person.
But you asked me why I still support him.
Well, I don't need to know why you still support him. I know why you still support him is because it's your view that the other side's worse.
Yeah. Now, I will say, if he is complicit in these Epstein files, any support that I have of him, at that point, I would rather Kamala in office. If he's actually on those files, I would rather Biden in office. I'd rather Obama in office. And I think it's going to hurt the country, but I don't want a legit P3DO in office. No, I would retract any and all support.
So here's a question I would have then.
But that's a major if, though.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
I get what you're saying. Yeah. If it comes out that he did criminal stuff with Epstein, then you would be, I get it. Here's a question I would have though. That position that you just laid out seems to be rooted in some sort of fundamental morality, right? You there's a moral line that you think is just way the fuck too far, and you're just like, nope, no support for you at all, buddy. If that's the case, and because you brought up, I assume you subscribe to some form of religion.
Well, my bio says "Make America Christian Again."
Okay, so it's Christianity. I was gonna say, I would have assumed because you brought up the Ten Commandments stuff earlier. That makes sense to me. Okay, you might take umbrage with the legal argument here, but I'll just tell you, and then if you want to have the legal conversation, we could. Those drone strikes, those are murders. Those fit the exact legal definition of murder. And so if you have this Christian worldview, this moral line that you just think is way the fuck too far, would directly violating one of the 10 Commandments not be it as a Christian? Thou shall not kill. This motherfucker's doing literal murders on the daily. Not on the, well, actually, kind of on the, I think he's gotten up to, he's about daily at this point. He's actually murdering people on a daily basis. And I don't mean like, we can have like qualms over the justifications when it comes to like warfare. Like people will always want to harken back to like Obama. Like, what about Obama's like Yemeni drone strikes? I'm like, at least legally speaking now, if you want to have a whole moral conversation on whether or not it's okay to drone strike people ever, sure, let's do it. But legally speaking, Obama had a lot of cover, a lot of legal cover, plenty of it. Trump doesn't have fucking any legal cover. This shit is just murder. It's just murder. That's it. That's all it is. And that's not over your line though. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you clearly have some moral line, and murder isn't it.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But it's, I mean,
you think Kamala would be drone striking motherfuckers out of the water for no reason whatsoever?
Well, let's be clear here for a moment. I think if we're gonna draw that line, I think what Trump's doing is just as bad as women getting an abortion. But I do think subjectively, this is subjective, God doesn't see it this way, but it's subjectively, if he's complicit in being a P3DO and molesting children, I find it worse. Yeah.
I mean, you can, I wouldn't have any, take any issue with you having like different moral weights for different actions, even if God weighted them the same. I think it's okay for you to weight them differently. That's okay.
That's a line too far from me.
I understand that. I'm just curious. So you would say,
yeah, I would say drug cartel, I don't feel as bad.
Yeah, let me just tell you. Well, I'm not expecting you to feel bad, especially because the claims that they are drug traffickers. I would love to point out the fact that the administration has made no effort at all to prove that. But that's besides the point, because it's hard to, it's kind of hard to prove it after you've already disintegrated their fucking whole thing, their whole shit. Here's a question I would have then. If you weight Trump murdering people in the middle of the fucking ocean similarly to abortion, and it's your view that Kamala is pro-abortion, so they're the same morally on the question of murder. If I believe that if I have like two opposing parties, this is how I make my voting decisions too, right? If it's my view that two opposing parties have the same negative moral trait, right? They both there's something in their moral system that I disagree with, and both of them have it. In this case, you would say they're both murderers. My secondary analysis, at that point, they're equal to me, so I have to drop down to a secondary form of analysis. And at that point, my secondary form of analysis would be likelihood of success. Like, if it is the case that both of you are willing to murder people, which one of you is going to pull it off? And in this case, Trump has, so we don't have to question Trump. Like, he's done it already. It's too late. It's done. We would have to have an argument of, do we really, how much do we think Kamala could have enshrined abortion more than it already is?
By reestablishing Roe v. Wade.
And how would she do that?
Electing justices. Or I said electing again.
But, I know what you mean. For her to appoint a Supreme Court justice, for one, it would require a vacancy, unless we were talking about court packing. Which, if you're worried about court packing, then my secondary question would be, then why hasn't Trump done it? And the answer is nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, she could maybe not do it in the first 4 years, perhaps get reelected, and there would be a vacancy in the next 4. I just don't want someone that's president that actively wants to reestablish Roe v. Wade.
I disagree with you on the we would have disagreements on abortion, but viewing the world through your moral lens, I totally get how you get to that position. You believe that abortion is murder. You don't want a murderer in office. I get that. The problem comes right back to, well, if our options, this is through your worldview, if our options are a murderer and a murderer, well, my second question just becomes, which one of you is more likely to successfully murder people?
Hold on. But it's not that I'm going to retract my opinion prior that I think it's not cool it's wrong to be bombing these ships. An argument could very well be made that it's in self-defense, because these drugs could unalive a bunch of people in the United States, as they do. There's a lot of.
How does that do any damage, or how does that do any lifting to defeat the argument you initially made?
Because abortion's not self-defense. But
no. I mean the argument that you would agree that it is incumbent upon the government to prevent bad things from happening in the least offensive manner possible. And I don't mean offensive as in offense to your sensibilities. I mean offense to human life. If you can arrest a person, it's incumbent upon you to do so rather than kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, they have the opportunity to arrest, and they're choosing not to. That's a choice. That's a decision that was made. Can I arrest you? Yeah. Am I gonna? Fuck no. I'm gonna kill you. That's the choice. That's the decision being made. So you can have some sort of a problem with the whether or not them bringing drugs to the U.S. Again, the administration has made no effort to prove that, so we don't even know if that's actually what's happening with these people. But if it is the case that they are, you can say, well, you bringing drugs into the country is a bad thing, and something should happen to you. You should be punished. But we've already established that it can't be we just jump to murder. You have to exhaust all other options. The lesser force. I mean, we have a use of force continuum. Police officers follow it. The military follows it. Fucking well, I mean, this is the military in this case. This is just drones, but this is just some dude sitting in a chair with a fucking controller. But yeah, we have to maintain the use of force continuum. If they can't arrest them, then and they choose not to, and they just choose to blow them up instead, that's just murder. So I get you on the whole drugs are bad thing, but it doesn't excuse the murdering.
I'm not gonna excuse it, man.
Yeah, I know you're not, but that's what I'm saying is we have a guy that has made a conscious choice to kill people when he doesn't have to, and then we have another person who you think is supportive of killing people, just like by default. So we've got two. So that's when I get to my main point. We have two murderers on our hand, and and again the secondary analysis goes, okay, well, which one of you can pull it off? I know Trump can because he has. But even pre-election, that's unfair because you could just say, well, of course, because he was already elected and it's already happened. You can't use future knowledge. You can't use knowledge you obtained in the future to predict something in the past. Sure, but I would say I would have said that previously too.
Yeah, but I would say then yes, because they're both of equal moral weight in that sense. But I would argue that abortion unalives way more people. I mean, in the excess of 900,000 a year. Then yes, it's wrong what Trump's doing. I would say just bombing these ships. I would rather them be arrested and perhaps they can have a chance to repent of their sins of being in the cartel or whatever. But there's way less of them being unalived, and there's hundreds of thousands of human lives being aborted every year.
Yeah. But I don't. Again, it's going to be this. I mean, we're going to end up having landing on the same question over and over and over.
Overturning Roe v. Wade saves more lives, and that's better than a few. Let's say a dozen traffickers being unalived a year.
Yeah, well, Roe v. Wade was already overturned. My point is that Kamala would have had absolutely no mechanism to change abortion laws at all. With the current positions of the Supreme Court, assuming she didn't pack the court, which again, no politician wants to do. There's so many negative ramifications of doing so that people.
A lot of Democrats
are afraid
advise
of. Yeah, a lot of Democrat pundits and there's plenty of politicians on both sides of the aisle that say they want to do it. My point is it never gets done because there's so many humongous political ramifications to doing such a thing.
Political suicide.
Yeah, nobody really wants to do it, even though everyone wants to do it. It's one of those issues, where everyone's like, we should do this, and then it comes time, and they're like, nah, that sounds bad. We shouldn't do it. There's plenty of it, abolishing the filibuster is another one of those huge things where everyone says we should just get rid of this bullshit, and then it comes time. Even Trump was like, motherfuckers, you gotta abolish the filibuster, and you hear here's Mike Johnson in the House no, they shouldn't do that. And I say they being the Senate, no, fuck that, don't do it. There's a lot of issues like this where everyone wants it, but nobody wants it. All of this is to wrap back up into the original point of you have one person who, through your lens, again, I'm not conceding this because we would have, but we don't have time to do the whole ass fucking abortion conversation. But through your lens, you have a person that wants to legalize murdering babies, and then you have a dude that has shown that he will just fucking kill people because he doesn't like them or whatever the fuck.
What kind of people? I mean, they're drug traffickers. So I understand.
Again, this is the thing. I'm going to keep harping on this. I don't think you can say in the affirmative that they're drug traffickers. Here's for instance, you have admitted throughout this conversation, so it's going to be really hard for you to rewind on this now. But would you say yes or no that Trump has repeatedly lied about Epstein file related issues?
Yes.
Okay, so we've established that this motherfucker, when it affects his credibility or when it affects his the way people view him and when it affects his political position in the country, he will lie. 100% he'll lie. Mm-hmm. Given the fact that the government has made no effort at all, not even a little bit, to provide any evidence that the people they're blowing up in these videos are actually drug traffickers, they haven't even lifted a pinky finger to try to prove that. If that's the case, and we know this guy will lie if the thing he's lying about will make him look bad, why would our I'm not saying that what you should be doing is saying they're definitely not drug traffickers. He's fucking lying to us. He's murdering innocent people. I'm not saying you should be saying that, but you're going the other way where you're they're drug traffickers. Why would you ever?
Who's feeding Trump the intel that they're drug traffickers? Is it just Trump seeing a boat out? Of course, there's a lot of checks and balances.
No, we're getting the problem is in a post-Trump v. U.S. world, there isn't. When you have a president,
you don't think anyone's feeding Trump the intel of them being traffickers?
I think there's people feeding him the intel that there are boats in the water. Obviously, one of our drones has to see that there is a boat driving through the water for them to even have something to blow up. But given the fact that there's no evidence provided, they're not even trying to, of them being traffickers, there's no reason we should take that at face value. Like, why would we? From this guy who you admit, like, will lie when it's politically convenient. Why would you take him at face value when he says that they're drug traffickers? Especially when they won't. Now, if he was making like an effort to be like, look, this is the evidence we had.
I don't think that the military would, because it's not him doing the drones, it's him approving it. But I don't think that all the chains of command it needed to get through before Trump said yes and then them actually carrying it out would carry it out if they didn't have, a concrete intel that these were traffickers.
People say that a lot. Have you ever been in the military?
No.
Okay, I can promise you they fucking would.
Well, the movies tell me otherwise. I see a lot of
the movies are fucking wrong. If it is the case, we get this conversation comes up a lot around like the National Guard deployments. This concept of like what does it take for a service member to disobey a law, like an unlawful order? There's this like kind of circular problem when it comes to unlawful versus lawful orders, and it is that. Well, yes, there's two prongs to this. A, you are allowed to disobey unlawful orders. That's true. And B, you're actually expected to disobey it. Like you're required. If you get an unlawful order, it is incumbent upon you. You are required to not do it. If someone, if you have a chief, I was in the Navy, so I use the fucking Navy terms. But if if your chief says, hey, like go rob this store, it is incumbent upon you. You are legally required to tell him to go fuck himself. Maybe not say, you know what I mean? Like you cannot follow that order. You can't if it's illegal. However, it is so fucking hard to disobey an order, regardless of the legality of that order. It is so fucking hard because the issue here is the legality of an order will be determined in a court later on. If you disobey an order, you're getting arrested. You just are. You're getting arrested. You're gonna go fucking sit in jail for a bit, and you gotta go through your whole ass fucking case to determine whether or not it was even justified for you to disobey that order at all.
Understood, of course.
So when you say like these people would if they weren't traffickers, these people would disobey the order. No, the fuck they wouldn't.
True. No. Okay, fine. I will retract that statement. I'm not going to retract the statement. I would just say I was wrong there because of course they're going to carry it out. In the face,
especially if it's from that high up, bro. If the president says do it, you're going to do it.
But those finding the initial intel on this boat and who's on the boat had to go through a lot of chain of command before it got to Trump. I'm sure there had to confirm certain things before it got to Trump.
Sort of. Let me ask you this question. I want an argument in the negative because I want to see if you can do it. What factors would prevent someone, maybe it's a ship, maybe it's one of our naval ships out in the ocean, maybe it's just a drone flying around, maybe it's maybe the Air Force is just flying fucking jets over they're not. But whatever mechanism it happens by, just accept the mechanism. What is to stop something of ours in the military ship, plane, whatever the fuck, sees a little boat, one of these boats that's been getting blown the fuck up, one of them cruising through the water. They report that up because, by the way, like I'll tell you this from experience. Like these things are always getting identified and like passed up the command. Like if you see anything out there, fishing boat, fucking Russian destroyer, Chinese fucking whatever it is, you're always like passing this up. Like, hey, we see this on, we've got eyes on this. We see it. What is preventing this from occurring? We see a fishing boat, pass it up. Pete Hegseth has a standing order. If you see a boat under these conditions, blow it the fuck up. Standing order, meaning it's not getting approved every single time. It's just he set the conditions. He said, hey, if you see like a small vessel in international waters going away from or towards one of these South American countries, blow it up. If those conditions are met, what is preventing that from being the reality?
What is preventing?
Yeah, why can't the scenario that I just described? Why can't that be true?
I'm sure it could be true. I would concede it could be true. I would say though that that's a very emotionally loaded question that would present a scenario in which our government would act in such an irrational way that blow up the next boat you see, even if it just doesn't matter. That's the standing order. Just blow it up.
Yeah, you know what would change my mind? Evidence of any kind.
Evidence of any kind, just showing that wouldn't happen, you mean?
No, showing what selection process they're actually going through to determine like who's getting blown the fuck up and who we let go.
I don't. That's over my. I don't know.
Any sort of like evidence of like, hey, look, we're not just blowing everyone up. Like we have particular selection criteria. We're not just blowing up everybody. Any evidence that any of the targets that have been destroyed were in fact drug trafficking boats. Here's the strongest piece of negative evidence, like evidence against the administration that they probably aren't only blowing up drug traffickers is that when we had a strike where people survived, we've had a few of those now, I think, but we had one like kind of early on, maybe like their fifth or sixth strike, where something went wrong, or maybe they just saw a fucking Predator missile inbound and got the fuck out of their boat. I don't know what happened. People survived. We captured them, just like we were talking about how we should be just arresting these motherfuckers. We captured them and instantly gave them back to their original country and their home country, and their home country just let them go. Because like they were like, there's no evidence at all that these guys did anything wrong, so they let them free. So we tried to kill them. They survived. We gave them back to their home country immediately. Their home country let them go. Think through that scenario. Think through all the possible options. If it is the case that these people were drug trafficking, we are presented with two options: prosecute them ourselves on our own terms, or give them back. If we're going to prosecute them ourselves, we would have to show evidence in a court of law. Well, if we don't have any evidence, what are we going to do? That's not going to work. So we give them back to their country. Now, there's two ways that could go. Either the country could be super duper duper corrupt, and they could be okay with drug trafficking,
yes,
and they could let them go, or it could be the case that there really is no evidence because they actually just weren't doing anything wrong, and so their country lets them go. Now, you're going to want to lean into that first option of, well, the country's just ultra corrupt and they're going to let them go no matter what they were doing. If that's the case, we would know that, correct? The fact that your intuitions told you that so quickly, you were like, yes, that one. Well, if you can intuit that so quickly, so can our fucking government. And if we want these people punished, if we want them to stop, why the fuck would we ever turn them back over to their country knowing full well they're going to get insta-let go?
I'm not sure what the legal grounds of us being able to hold them essentially hostage in our country is.
Well, we wouldn't be holding them hostage. We'd be trying them. They would go on trial for crimes. But the problem is you have to prove crimes.
But it's crimes being done in international waters. Again, I don't know what the legal grounds are for us to prosecute them in our country if it's in international waters.
If they're trafficking drugs into our country?
Well,
we charge them for drug trafficking 100% easily.
Two things have to be proven there. One, that first, that there's drugs on the boat, and second, that they were going to traffic them into our country.
Right. And so so you've landed exactly on it. This is the fundamental question. If you cannot prove that in a court of law, if you're so insecure about your case and your evidence that you have, that you're willing to turn them back over to a country you know will let them go because you know you cannot prove at all in a court that they were trafficking drugs at all or to our country, then why the fuck would it ever be okay to blow them up?
Yeah, no, I get your point.
If you can't prove it in court, you shouldn't be drone striking them.
Right. This is, okay, so just to be transparent, this is not a topic I'm that versed on at all, but it's just hard for me to believe that the intel being concluded before delivering the message to Trump that there's drugs on this boat is hyper studied, it's meticulous. They're not just seeing some boat out in the water and thinking, all right, maybe it has drugs. Let's tell Trump so that he can give us the order to blow it up.
I'll say again.
But again, I'm not versed on the subject, so I do not know. I'm very ignorant.
I was just saying, well, even like the logic you laid out doesn't necessarily track, because again, if we capture survivors, if we are doing like a lot of vetting, we should pretty easily be able to go present that in court and be like, hey, look, this is all.
It would stand to reason.
Yeah, this is all the evidence that we gathered that gave us cause to shoot a missile at them. And now we're going to hand it over to you, the court, and because we failed to kill them, you put them in jail instead. But the fact that we were willing to instantly turn them back over to a country that you instantly recognized would probably just release them because it's corrupt countries. We're talking about like Venezuela here. Like they're probably just going to let them go. If we're willing to turn them back over immediately to a country we know is going to let them go, that means we had no evidence. So much so that we didn't even fucking try. At least try. Here's a different scenario. What if it is the case that we tried to prosecute them in the U.S. and we failed, and then we turned them over? That's a scenario.
That's a problem, because if that is the case, again, there's a lot of unknowns here, and it's way above my knowledge on the subject. But let's just say that we tried to prosecute them and there was lack of evidence. That scares the shit out of me. Then, okay, if there's lack of evidence, how did you have enough evidence to even give the order to blow them up? That's a fair question. No, listen to me. It is a fair question. Maybe there's someone, Tony seems to know a lot more on the subject than me. So, I think that our conversations kind of found a good conclusive end here. I appreciate your view. Again, I appreciate your principles and being principled. But yeah, I just don't know on this subject, honestly.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say I say this to literally everybody, and it's never not going to be the case. But like when people say like, I don't know enough about this, I'm like, well, look it up.
Good. So you have a valid question.
Well, secondly, I wouldn't even necessarily, I don't even think you need to go as far as to like dig into the actual nitty gritties here. I just like run through that logical experiment in your head of like, wait, why?
I would just say it this way:
what's
if
the
it was
motivation
Biden
here?
doing it, if it was Biden doing it, I'm already biased against Biden, right? And if he was the one calling these orders, and it come to find out that a few of the survivors on this boat were being persecuted, and they had insufficient evidence to land them in jail, I'd think, wait, so how did you even have enough evidence to make the order in the first place?
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid question, and I think my side would be far more critical of if it was Biden or Obama calling this order, if the same scenario were presented. So I got to be fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. It's been fun.
Good talking to you, man.
Absolutely. Have a good one.